Today I want to talk about the LS300. It's a great camera, but how do you adapt Canon EF and EFS lenses to this camera and still have your autofocus and your image stabilization work? Stay tuned. I'll tell you the answer. All right, so I bought the JVC GY-LS300 recently. I needed a camera that was going to do better in low light than the JVC 170U. I prefer to use a video camera instead of using my DSLR for making videos. I do have a Canon 70D. That's what I'm using to shoot this video with. And although it's a great camera and it works very well, there are some situations where I feel having a proper video camera makes my work a little easier. Now here's the problem. I have Canon glass. I have Canon EF and EFS lenses that I purchased for the 70D. Some of these lenses have autofocus, actually all of them have autofocus, and some of them even have image stabilization that I would like to utilize with the JVC camera. The problem that I'm running into is finding an adapter that's actually going to allow those Canon lenses to work on the JVC. Now I did some research and I found out that the metabones adapter, although it works well for other cameras, doesn't really seem to work very well for the JVC GY-LS300. Plus it's $400, which is kind of pricey to me. And I'm kind of cheap. I don't want to pay that much. So then I came across the Commlite. Now there are different reviews on YouTube about this particular adapter. And most people say that when you compare it to the metabones equivalent, that they're almost the same. The problem is it doesn't work well for the JVC GY-LS300. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you, it really doesn't work at all. Now I'm hooking up the Canon kit lens. This is the 18-135. All right, so I just turned the camera on, as you can see. I just want to show you what happens when you turn the camera on with the Commlite adapter attached. You can see how the screen went black, came on, went black. And boy, you can see time is just ticking, and I'm just missing a bunch of shots right now. And that's just what it does. It takes a while. Still waiting. Yep, still waiting. I think, are we good? Okay, I think we're good here. So as you can see, what's happening here is because this adapter really doesn't work with this particular camera, it just opens up the aperture to its widest setting. And obviously the widest setting on the kit lens is not 1.2, it's actually 3.5. But because this adapter does not work, it just sets it to 1.2, it just says 1.2 on the screen, it opens it up to its widest aperture, which is really 3.5, and you cannot change it. Believe me, I've tried. You cannot change it. That's just how it works. Also, I can turn on the image stabilization in the camera. And, you know, this lens is not being image stabilized. It's still, the focus works. I mean, the manual focus works, of course. But this lens is not image stabilized. It's, see how shaky I can make it? It just doesn't work. So there's no difference, you know, if what I did there was I turned the image stabilization off. It still looks the same. It just doesn't work. Also, just to note, the autofocus also doesn't work. So nothing works. You can't control the aperture, image stabilization doesn't work, and even autofocusing does not work. So this is going to be returned. I did contact the company and they told me that it just does not work for the JVC GY-LS300. I don't know if they're going to eventually fix that, but probably not. I don't know. Unless the JVC GY-LS300 gets more popular, I'm sure they're not going to worry about making a fix for it. However, I started doing more research and I found that the Kipon adapter, the Kipon Micro Four Thirds, or actually the Kipon Canon EF and EFS to Micro Four Thirds adapter does work for the JVC LS300. And matter of fact, in one of their firmware updates, they made some modifications to fix some type of issue that they were having with the JVC LS300. So they're actively making sure that their adapter works for this particular camera. So I did purchase that adapter. It's on its way. I should have it by tomorrow or the day after. I'm gonna run some tests on it, and I'm gonna let you know what I find. That worked pretty well. Nope, 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 nope. Just trying to focus there on that rock, on that cliff. Just having a hard time focusing on it. Come back over here. Gets the focus, come over here. Just having a real hard time. In the earlier shots you saw I was trying to focus on the rocks over there and then on the staircase here, the stones on the staircase, and going back and forth. It's very hard for the camera to get focus going back and forth from an object that's far and one that's near. It's having trouble focusing on what is far. It seems to do a pretty decent job at focusing on what's near, although it hunts for focus back and forth a few times. It's still not terrible. Right now, I do have the autofocus on. Let me just double check. Yes, it's on. So the autofocus is on right now. I don't know how well it's working. Another thing we can test for with the Kipon adapter. Currently have the image stabilization off. So there's no image stabilization, and you see the shot is a little rocky. I'm zoomed all the way into 135, which is to be expected. So it's a little shaky. I'm manually focusing at this point because the autofocus doesn't really work well. Okay, but now I'm going to turn on the image stabilization. So the image stabilization is now on. Let's see if that makes a difference. And to me, it appears that it is making a difference. The shot definitely looks less shaky. Still zoomed all the way in. Just doing kind of a diagonal pan tilt, and it seems to be working pretty well. This is all handheld. So I'm manually focusing, obviously, because it's too hard to do it otherwise. I'm gonna use the focus assist on the camera to help me out. Alright, so it looks like I'm in focus. Alright, so I'm manually focusing, and I have it set to auto exposure. So the iris is being controlled by the camera. So I'm not sure how well that's working out. According to the zebras, it looks like it's working out pretty well. The sun is beaming me pretty hard right now. I can barely see the camera screen, and I'm about blind right now. But that's just a test to show you what the auto exposure does. You already know that autofocus does not work. All right, so now I just switched the camera around, so now the sun is behind me. So I wanted to see how it would do exposing for that. Looking on the screen, I look totally dark. And it doesn't really seem to be fixing it very well. Oh, but you know why it's doing that? Because it's doing that because the ISO is set manually to 400, so it can't adjust the ISO by itself. So let me open up the ND filters a little bit. And now let's see what it does. So the ND filter set to 1/16. Let me see what it does if I open it all the way. So now the ND filter is opened up completely. And it's set to auto exposure. And it did just bring down the levels a little bit. So it did close down the aperture to f11. So it does seem to work. Actually, I think I'm gonna shoot this way so I can actually see what the hell I'm doing instead of looking right into the sun like an idiot. All right, so I made a slight change. I just changed the ND filter to a 1/4 instead of a 1/16. So there's a little bit more light coming in to the lens. It's still set to auto exposure. I have the focus set to manual because the focus kind of sucks. Let me just adjust it a little bit, make sure I'm good. I'm using my focus assist on the camera and everything looks good. All right. So what we found out basically is with the Kipon adapter, stabilization works well. The aperture settings work well, so you can control the aperture manually with no problem. It's very responsive. Even if you set it to auto, it still works pretty well. The only thing that doesn't work is the autofocus. It sucks. It really can't find the autofocus very well. Typically, I don't really use autofocus that much when I'm shooting video anyway. But there are cameras that do a very good job of it, like the Canon 70D that I also own. When I put this lens on the Canon 70D and put it in autofocus, you can tap the screen, pick where you want to focus, and it's very responsive. It finds it very quickly, and it stops. It doesn't hunt. It works very well. So I know the lens is capable of autofocusing well. It just seems that the adapter matched with this camera doesn't work very well. I'm not saying that the Kipon adapter doesn't work as far as autofocus goes with other cameras. I don't know because I haven't tried it, but I'm just saying with the JVC GY-LS300, it doesn't work so well. So that's it. So there are your results. If you found this review to be helpful, please go ahead and like it, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and if you're interested in the Kipon adapter, there's links below where you can buy it. If you purchase it, I get a small commission off of that. I like money, so go ahead and buy it from my link. I appreciate it. And I guess I'll see you soon.